Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how to set up your Sentro knitting machine on the tube setting. And Rocket has come to say hi. He has been having fun with this new setup that I'm testing. And we're going to go through how to cast on, how to crank your rows, how to count your rows, and how to cast off. So if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'm just going to zoom you in so we can get started. So in terms of things you will need, you'll obviously need your Sentro knitting machine. This is the 48 pin. This is really good for adult size clothing and accessories, so for hats, if you're making panels for t-shirts or jumpers, skirts, dresses, really good. You'll also need some wool. This is from Love Crafts, it is the PaintBox yarn. I found from my experience so far that this thickness of yarn seems to work best and looks less holey, but obviously that depends what you're making and how you want it to look. I'll put a link below in the description for this yarn. You may also find it beneficial to have a crochet hook. It's really handy if you drop any stitches, or if you're like me and have big hands and sometimes struggle to get them off the pins. And also a bodkin. This pink one comes with the machine, as you can tell it's the same colour. I also have this other one that I owned previously. The hole size is a little different, but overall they do the same job, so it doesn't matter if you lose this one, any bodkin will do. In terms of getting to know your machine, this white pin is really important. It marks the end of the 48 count and also where you will cast on and cast off. Over here to the left you have your row counter. This only works on the tube knitting setting, so if you're panel knitting you do need to either manually count. I find it handy just to have a piece of paper and tally, or you can use a row counter. This little attachment here is to do with the tension of your yarn. I tend to keep it on the smallest one, which is the one closest to the machine. And you obviously have your handle as well, which you use to crank the machine round. Which if I do this, you will see that this will change to number 1. There you go. So as soon as that white pin is hit, this goes to number 1. So that's kind of all you need to know. Just move my machine back in shot. So in terms of how you set it to tube or panel knitting, on the side there is literally a big P for panel, a big T for tube, and you just slide it. And we want it on tube. You also want to make sure your row counter is set to 0 for when you start, and you're on the white pin. So what you're going to want to do is unravel quite a bit of yarn, because otherwise it tends to tangle. And we are going to cast on our machine. So what you want to do is make sure you leave a tail that will be living on the inside of this, and hook it underneath the pin, like that. Then you will crank the handle and skip every other pin. You want to do this quite slowly when you're casting on, just so you don't miss any stitches. So you wrap around the back of the second pin, and then underneath the third. Round the back, under the pin, round the back, under the pin, and continue until you're all the way back to the white pin. I should also flag I don't have the feet on my machine, so if it's wobbling around that is why, but it does come with sort of rubber stoppers to go on the bottom of the machine, but the type of tables I have in my house, they don't stick to them, so I just kind of have to get on with how it is. When I'm not filming, I put weights on top of the bottom of the machine. So now we're back at the beginning. We want to make sure that is hooked underneath. I'm just going to move that so you can see it a bit better. So you want to make sure it's hooked underneath the white pin, and then through here. Then what you want to do, which you can just about see if I slide this across, is put it in the tightest tension hole. Then we start cranking. So first set around you want to do quite slowly. You don't need to do it at snail pace, but just make sure you don't drop any of the stitches, and this time around you want to make sure every single pin, the thread hooks underneath. So for example that one has just skipped it, so what I'm going to do is just push that in and hold this a little tighter while I go round to make sure it goes under, which apparently it doesn't want to. There you go. Oh no, it doesn't like me today. But you just got to be a bit careful, because this machine is not expensive, but it's also a little temperamental. So for example, so far it doesn't want to actually go through any of my pins. But then when it starts to do it, it does tend to pick them all up. So, and that clicking noise is just because the tension is quite tight. And again, if you are like me and don't find the feet useful, you can put weights down, but mine are massive and it would look very weird while I was filming. So I'm just trying to hold my machine still with my left hand. There you go. So now we've just done our second row, so this has gone to number 2. And essentially just keep cranking around until you have as many rows as you would like. So I'm going to do a couple more and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've just done 20 rows, and to prove my point on how this machine can be a bit temperamental, my row counter has only been counting the digit rather than the 10, so it keeps resetting when it hits 10. Hasn't done that before, so that's a new experience, but that's just something to bear in mind. So it is worth, if you're making something in panels particularly, that you keep a tally or make note of how many rows you've done. Also forgot to mention, you need to make sure you have a pair of scissors so you can cast off. So to cast off, you want to leave quite a long tail. I am probably leaving about 60 centimetres, we're going to go with, I think, maybe a little longer. And simply just want to cut the ball of yarn. I'm sorry for my cat meowing Rocky. He has a tough time when I'm filming. Get down. There you go, Rocket has left for building. So what you want to do, now that you've got this cut off, is there's different ways you can cast off. The way that is easiest for tube knitting is make sure you use your bodkin, and that this has been unhooked. So you want to plonk this in the middle and make sure that this is no longer in the tension gauge so the yarn doesn't catch. What you want to do is go around once to loosen the stitches. So you go all the way around nice and slowly until you get to the white pin. And we are back at the white pin, and as you can see, this has decided it's going to pop off, which makes my life a bit more difficult. So, crochet hook. Let's hook that onto the thing. And we're just going to plonk that back there for now, just so we don't lose it. Now, grab the tail of your yarn, thread it through your bodkin. If it's a bit fluffy, just roll the ends together, and you want to thread that on. And I'm going to stand up for this because I find it easier with the height of my chair. And simply, you just want to slide that in under there. Just zoom you in a little. Excuse me. So you want to just slide your bodkin with the thread looped in through like that. The longer tail you leave, arguably the more difficult it becomes, and that is that one on there. And then simply just go do the same all the way around. And what you can do as well, if you want to pop the stitches off as you go, is just crank the handle. So in through there and pull it through. And essentially you're going to do that all the way around until you get to the 48th pin, or how many pins are on your machine. So I'll be back when I've done that. Okay, so I am almost done casting off. I personally do prefer casting off using circular needles. I do have a short, which I will link, on how to do that, just because you do get a significantly tighter and cleaner edge. I'm so sorry for my cat meowing constantly. He can't cope without me. It's a hard life being a cat. There you go. So now we're just back on the first pin. And essentially what I'm going to do is just try and get that one in there. And what you want to do is simply make a knot, which, as you can see, my thread has doubled because I've weaved in the end while I was casting off. And essentially, just want to keep pulling until that's nice and tight, and because this is on the tube setting, when we pull, it's going to cinch things together. I am so sorry, Rocky! Big crybaby. So if you're making a hat, for example, what you do is just keep pulling and it will cinch everything in the middle, as you can see it's doing. This was just a test piece, but actually I guess you could use this as a hair scrunchie if you wanted to. And yeah, so it'll just cinch all the way around the more you keep pulling. So that is how it casts off on the machine, which, as you can see, it's a little loose, especially here. Luckily this is a test piece, but as you can see it is quite a loose, and that's with me having pulled it, but it is a loose cast off. Sorry, the cat is distracting me quite significantly and he's going to jump on the door. Life is hard as a knitter and a cat owner. But yes, that's essentially how you cast off. Then you just need to cut this off and weave it in if that is your project. Obviously this is a test piece, so it's not the end of the world, but that is how you do that. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, make sure you hit subscribe and like this video, and I will see you in the next Sentro knitting machine tutorial. I will see you next time. Take it easy and take care.